Writing for any supplement, this is Quercetin from Triquetra, is as simple as mechanism. Now, what is mechanism? How exactly does Triquetra's form of quercetin work to lower histamine levels? Histamine is actually something that a lot of people beyond these deal with on a daily basis. Swelling, under eye swelling, fatigue, brain fog, that is high histamine. Accelerated aging, that is high histamine levels. Now, to write a VSL that helps people who don't understand that necessarily high histamine levels was the reason for their swollen face, for their lack of energy, for their bad sleep, for their cognitive decline, for their memory loss. This is going to grab their attention. Positioning is the hook. If the positioning doesn't make me immediately raise my hand to the problem, the story about the pain, not the pain points, the story about the pain, the story, period. And the more authentic the story, if you look at anything that is viral on TikTok, you will know that it is all storytelling. Very little of it is actually selling a supplement or an ingredient. It's selling your story so that people can raise their hand and self-identify with how the solution worked for you. That's what's important. That's what makes the conversion. Now, to get anything out of ChatGPT, it's all about context. Here's context that I created in thread to understand what it is, quercetin, what quercetin is, what it does, why. I will put this in the description below. But as a man of lupus, no one ever told me my worst symptoms might be histamine in my brain, not inflammation in my joints, or insert whatever you want to correlate it to. Didn't really like those. So I reprompted. I want everything to be me telling a story again, what I just said to you. Still didn't like those as first lines. That's when I asked, feeling cognitively youthful. Now, when you're helping ChatGPT understand the conversation and train it in the conversation and also help yourself understand it, and you're creating context. Context is what leads to the positioning points that it will be able to spit out VSL copy for days that will convert on cold traffic, Meta, YouTube traffic, Google, TikTok, sorry. You're able to get specific copy for each specific platform because yes, it is different copy that will convert on these different platforms. Meta can get away with a lot more direct response. YouTube can get away with a lot more direct response. TikTok can't, at least not in the traditional way. Not the most copywriters or old school direct response supplement owners think about it. What's a good company? I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Golden Hippo, anything Dr. Gundry, right? So okay. I didn't like any of these. I took Claritin for my puffy eyes and brain fog because I started seeing a correlation. So got those better. I started taking Claritin to fix my swollen eyes and brain fog. It made me feel like I was crawling out of my skin, though. Quercetin Complete didn't numb me. It reset me. My face is visibly less puffy, and I can think clearly again, right? So positioning is the hook. You start at the hook, at the positioning point. And you get to designate what that is. I could use Claritin as the symbol. I can start with histamine, antihistamine, since this is not a histamine blocker. This helps regulate the histamine released. So it's a completely different mechanism. So the value proposition, an apples to apples value proposition, actually makes that likely very effective opening for a VSL. Also visually, the same thing. I added context from another video I made for inside of my membership. I have, if you want to know about that, that's copyprompting.com. Tell me more about how unchecked histamine levels speed up aging and lower quality of life. Should have said that. So now we're getting a little bit deeper into what is really going on. Histamine crosses the blood-brain barrier and builds up. The brain has immune cells. Did you know that? I didn't really even know it, at least not in that term. In small doses, microglia protect you. In excess, they become destructive. So there's another positioning point talking about, did you know your brain has an immune system? And if you have brain fog, your brain's immune system is actually breaking down, and it's actually a sign of something worse about to happen, the kind of memory loss that doesn't come back. Boom. So as you're doing your 80% in creating context, you're able to start imagining copy. Now, I'm going to show you what would be a first line of a VSL look like for this positioning. If your memory's slipping, your motivation's tanked, and your face looks puffy every morning, this isn't aging. It's histamine, right? That could be effective. Histamine isn't just an allergy chemical. It's a neurotransmitter that, when overloaded, speeds up aging in your brain. I would just leave it there, but you could say gut, skin, and sleep. And the reason I'd say leave it there is to keep it more one thing, which is the essence of direct response. One thing, one problem, one solution mechanism to make the solution work, to help people suspend their own disbelief. Now we tell stories about it so that we're not just helping people suspend their disbelief, but helping them relate with, see themselves in, mirror neuron, self-identify with your story. That's why we songs. That's why we doom scrolling on TikTok, because we see ourselves in certain things and we just can't stop. It's a dopamine thing, and it's led to dopamine burnout, which would do amazing copy for any kind of dopamine supplement. There's a slight epidemic in people over 40, histamine overload, and it's misdiagnosed as burnout, aging, or anxiety every single day. I actually discovered this whole process because of having personal panic attacks and anxiety, and that I was prescribed histamine, an old first generation histamine that actually caused me digestive issues, slow down digestion. It did help with the anxiety, but it also caused digestive numbing. It wasn't good. I didn't like. This is a natural way to deal with anxiety, which is another positioning point. So if anxiety is another positioning point, I don't know if I spelled that right. Doesn't matter. What would the first line of copy look like? That? So that's a positioning prompt, right? We copy prompt to create the context, and then we to get positioning, then we position prompt to expand on positioning. Different ways of saying the same thing, of exercising UX. So let's say you're running this on Meta. You have the first line of your VSL, you have your headline, you have your first line of primary copy, 123 characters or 25 characters, something like that. So you have control over a lot of things of what people are seeing, and once they click that, they're able to hear the video. So you want to have captions on the video. So you're thinking about the whole user experience. My face looked swollen every morning. I thought it was aging. It was histamine. Did I say? Oh, sorry. And that right there, every time I ate leftovers or had wine, my face blew up. I didn't know it was a histamine problem, right? You eat or drink something with histamine, and it just immediately causes the puffiness, the histamine symptoms. I thought I had anxiety. It turns out my histamine levels were just maxed out. Nobody tells you histamine can mimic panic attacks. I had to learn that the hard way. Okay. This one. Quercetin helped my face, but it made my anxiety worse. Quercetin brought the calm without the side effects, but nothing about histamine there. If you struggled with panic attacks, anxiety, or brain fog that keeps getting worse, there's a good chance it's not in your head. It's histamine. Unregulated histamine is triggering panic attacks, wrecking memory. Okay, I want this to be from my story and perspective. I thought I had anxiety issues. I thought I was losing my mind, but what I had was unchecked histamine wrecking my brain. I was waking up wired, forgetting simple things, spiraling into anxiety, and the whole time it was histamine building up in my system. the panic, the memory gaps, the racing thoughts. I lived with it for years before I realized histamine was behind all of it. Okay, so those can be all pretty effective. Now, let me choose one. This one has SRI specificity. It wasn't until I weaned off SRIs and started getting these irrational panic spikes that I realized histamine was hijacking my nervous system. Don't I blame stress, burnout, and aging, but the truth was my histamine levels, no. I didn't have, no, didn't know that one. Let's go with the first one here. So now that we have our positioning and the first line that really can achieve high self-identification and be very effective, something that you can put money behind and grow, especially if you're running it on Meta with engagement ads that are helping constantly establish and grow your TAM, your total addressable market. So you can see, again, pretty good. What finally helped was another pill. It was Quercetin Complete from Triquetra. It's not a pharmaceutical, it's a plant compound, but not just any form. They use something called Quercetin, a clinically studied phytozyme version of quercetin that absorbs up to 50 times better than the standard. That's pretty cool, and I felt it. That part's important because regular quercetin barely gets into your system. This one actually does. I thought I had anxiety issues. I thought I was losing my mind, but what I really had was an unchecked histamine problem wrecking my brain. I was getting panic attacks from stress. I wasn't getting panic attacks from stress. I wasn't forgetting things because I was just getting older. I wasn't burned out or weak or lazy. I was inflamed. And the thing doing the damage was histamine. Not the kind that gives you hives or allergies, the kind that floods your nervous system quietly, daily, and nobody talked about it. My doctor didn't. Nobody could help me. It started with pressure in my chest and racing thoughts, then memory lapses that scared me more than I wanted to admit to anybody. I tried Claritin. It helped with the swelling in my face, but it flattened me. I felt emotionally disconnected. Not no panic, but no focus either. Really off. That's when I learned the difference between OTC meds and what real regulation looks like. Pharmaceutical antihistamines like Claritin, Benadryl, they block histamine after it's already released, which can help the symptoms, but it doesn't solve the real problem. Quercetin works differently. It doesn't block histamine; it stops your body from overproducing it in the first place, or it helps stop. It actually calms the mast cells, the cells responsible for releasing histamine when your system is triggered. So instead of playing whack-a-mole with symptoms, you start regulating at the root. That's why I got from Quercetin Complete from Triquetra. And it wasn't just any quercetin. Right now it has more impact. So you can see how quickly you can get to your supplement VSL copy once you give the ChatGPT machine the context and lead to the positioning, the mechanism which leads to the positioning, which leads to different positioning points, different archetypes, different people telling different stories about the same problem. Lots of different things that you can do with this. And you just remember to lock it all in. You have to remember to lock it in. Otherwise, it'll just be this thread and it'll be like, I don't know what you're talking about. So make sure you tell it, lock in, remember these things about this. I'm going to use it for blah, blah, blah in the future in future threads. Okay, questions, comments below.